Allow me to break the ice. The world as we know it is changing. Global temperatures are rising, and its effects will be felt throughout the world.
Global temperature has already begun to rise, causing ice around the globe to melt at alarming rates. According to NASA, sea ice is melting around 13.2% every 10 years, compared to the 1981 to 2010 average. This global meltdown is a product of human activities like the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and urban development. These everyday actions aren't often thought of as destructive, but their impacts on the environment is detrimental. That's a pretty slippery slope if you ask me.
These increasing temperatures have notable effects on glaciers. The temperature changes result in more melting of ice during the hotter periods and then less snow accumulation in the cold periods, as the cold periods are no longer as cold as they used to be.
Ambient temperature isn't the only thing that's melting the glaciers. Rising levels of carbon emissions cause albedo to reduce.
Albedo is the reflectivity of light off of a surface. The higher the albedo, the more light is reflected and less is absorbed. Albedo comes in the form of light-absorbing impurities, or LAIs. These LAIs come in the form of black carbon, organic carbon, as well as dust. When the LAIs are deposited on the surface of snow and ice, it allows more light to be absorbed, which increases surface temperature, which speeds up more melting. The more melting causes these LAIs to fall lower and accumulate on the ice, which in turn creates a positive feedback loop.
An example of this was in a study done in the southeastern Tibetan Plateau. Samples of snow and ice were taken from this area and analyzed. What was found is that there was a large amount of particulate was left behind after filtration. What was left was the LAIs. Because of these LAIs, as well as other melting caused by climate change, the southeastern Tibetan Plateau are receding approximately 48 meters per year.
Two examples of ice melt are the Hay Glacier in the Rocky Mountains and the Western Antarctic ice sheet. The Hay Glacier in the Rocky Mountains has lost a total of 12.5 meters in height due to increased global temperatures and albedo. The Western Antarctic ice sheet has lost 118 gigatons per year since 2012, and if a total breakup of the ice sheet occurs, the sea level will rise 3.3 meters. At frost events, this doesn't sound like much, but this thinning and retreat means increased melt-off in the summer months, seen in the form of increased rates of discharge into rivers and oceans.
By the year 2100, this runoff could cause billions of people globally to be affected by rising sea levels. Whole countries like the Maldives would be inundated by just 1.3 meters of water.
Of this runoff, most goes into river systems, groundwater, atmosphere, and into ecosystems with animal and plant life. River systems, such as that of the Bow River, which connect to the Oldman River, receive melt-off from glaciers, which get circulated throughout Alberta. Once these glacier reserves are gone, there will be little additional water coming from the mountains to flow into rivers. As for communities that live along the highly populated Bow River, or even the Oldman, it can be a great issue for water resources with a growing population.
With the loss of continental ice, the most vulnerable and rare species are secluded due to their small geographical ranges and abundances. They may be unable to survive the loss of glaciers.
Now let's take a cold hard look at the animals being impacted by this glacial change. Animals like polar bears are impacted by removing the ability to access food, which has drastically decreased their populations and are now classified as vulnerable. This change is forcing the bears to either migrate or die. Other species such as desmans rely on nearby glacial streams for shelter and nutrients. With the loss of snowpack and an increase in temperature, desmans are decreasing in population not only because of the loss of their homes, but also because of the increased predator populations spreading higher up into their mountains, and competing species whose niches are expanding to include higher elevations. These are just some examples of the hundreds of species being threatened. Humans are impacting the lives of species around the world, and many niches are being destroyed.
There's no easy way to say this, but glacial melting is impacting the entire world and will have drastic impacts on the future and beyond. From the mountains, to the streams, to ecosystems, to us and humanity. This issue isn't as simple as ice melting, but is as complex as worldwide changes.